Hey guys, welcome back to FAMcast. This is episode 18. I'm Trevor, and I'm here with a special guest today, Tim Weber. He has never been on the show before.
I am brand new, guys. Thank you for having me on.
No, just me and Tim today. Just another smaller podcast. But we wanted to talk about HD releases today, or HD remakes. So something that it's been, I guess, kind of controversial in the past. Some people are a fan of these HD remakes for nostalgia purposes. Other people feel like it's flooding the market and people aren't coming up with their own original ideas. So we're here to discuss that today and kind of get to the bottom of what we think, at least between the two of us here.
Yeah.
So recently, Tim, you just picked up Dragon's Dogma, right?
Yes, I did.
And I'm unfamiliar with it, so I'll let you take over. But you said that is an HD remake, correct?
Correct. So it came out originally, I'm going to say somewhere around 2000. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but it's like 2013, 14-ish, right? And the initial reason I picked up the original game was because it came with a Resident Evil 6 demo. So that's how they got me to buy into the game. It's like, oh, Resident Evil 6 demo, yes. And
I'm sure that was super worth it.
100% worth it, man. That demo. Oh,
in my opinion, it's the best Resident Evil game ever.
By far, there's none greater. That game did everything everybody wanted as a Resident Evil fan. Like, it was perfect. It hit every mark. It was glorious. But so Dragon's Dogma itself wound up being an absolutely amazing game, in my opinion. It was unique. It had a pawn system that was unique to, any game that I've played, at least, where, like, so Trevor, let's say it's not a multiplayer game, okay? It's not multiplayer. Okay. But let's say you're playing, okay? When you play, eventually you'll get to make your own main pawn, okay? And pawns are just a person, another character that you get to make. So think of it's an NPC, but it's kind of like your creation of an NPC. Do you want it to be a mage, a ranger, whatever? And in your group, you get to have 4 pawns total. So 2 random pawns, and then you and your main pawn, right?
Okay.
So you make your main pawn, and what's really neat is in my game, your main pawn might be just, roaming about, and I could hire them to be in my group. So he or she could take the place of one of the other 2 random spots I have that's not my main pawn, okay? And vice versa. So mine could be in your game, and you could hire them. And when you do that, as they play with you, they'll gather stuff, and they'll bring that stuff back to my game. They'll bring back items. They'll bring back stuff. So it's not multiplayer, but it has some really unique multiplayer function to it, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Along with a sweet combat system, just tons of content. Like, it's just fun, and it's challenging. It's very difficult at times, and it's really good. It makes you want to kick things, but then you go right back to it.
Right.
So I was super stoked that they were making a remake, because I know they made one for the PC. I know they redid the game and made it on PC, but I never picked it up on PC. Whether that was because it was too soon after I got done playing it. I was like, I'm not ready to play it again, whatnot. But they just re-released it this last Tuesday on Xbox One and I believe PS4. Then it's just I'm replaying it, and I'm just getting all that just the nostalgia of playing it again, the fun, the complicatedness of it, the some ups and bads of it that it had, but it's a good time, and I really am loving replaying that game.
So kind of bringing it back to the HD remake aspect.
Yep.
Do you feel that it warranted an HD remake? Because in my opinion, when I think HD remake, I think of like older games, like maybe GameCube, PS2, maybe those era or even earlier. So this one, with it being just in an Xbox 360 game, do you think it really warranted an HD re-release already?
So I guess, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it wasn't an HD remake, but as far as a re-release, I was completely content with it. Was it warranted? That's a hard say. I will say that a lot of people have been asking for another Dragon's Dogma game.
Okay.
A lot of people have been asking for a sequel, like even ever since the first one was done, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this game's great." So warranted. I'm happy they did it, I guess.
Sure.
So I guess take that for what it is. But I could see why they did it. I mean, you have a lot of people asking for it, and you can make money off of it. Why not? Which I guess we'll get into, the grand scheme of HD remakes at that point.
Right. So that kind of brings me to one of my points here. Do you think that is it lazy on the developer side, instead of developing a brand new Dragon's Dogma game like you're saying that people probably want? Instead they just kind of take the assets that they have. And I can't say for sure. I don't know if it is a true HD remake or if it's just like, hey, now we're porting it to the Xbox One. I don't know what they did there, but either way, it's the same game just on the newer generation console. So in your opinion, what do you think about them doing that versus actually creating a new game?
So I would definitely rather have a new game, 100%. And I think anybody else would say the same thing. Definitely rather have a new game. I feel like if they would have say, hey, we are working on a new game, but here's, a remake or whatnot, an HD rescale, whatever they called it, of the old game, just to, hold you over, I feel like that would have been cooler. As more of a, hey, just you can replay this as a placeholder while we work on the second one.
Sure.
It does bother me that they haven't even really mentioned a second one. Now, I know there were some rumors back in the day about it, and I haven't really read too much up on it, so maybe they are doing a second one. And I feel like at that point, it makes sense. Why wouldn't I want to revisit that game before the next one came out, right?
Right.
And I would rather have an upscaled version if it is upscaled on my new Xbox versus going back. Because, okay, I'll be dead honest. There's backwards compatibility, right?
Yeah.
And there are games where I'm just like, oh man, sweet, backwards compatibility. I've started up a couple of those games. I'm just like, okay, it's not an Xbox One game, don't care.
Yeah.
It definitely happens. So I would like them 100% to make a new one. And if that was the case, and they were doing that, and they were, like I said, re-releasing this game as just a, hey, play this until the new one comes out, as a quick reminder of what it was about. Yes, but I would say I would much rather them work on a sequel. Like, if I had to choose between, hey, make a sequel or re-release the first one, 100% make a sequel. I want more.
Sure.
I want more, but I want different.
And I think it's a really tough question. I don't think there's really a right answer, because I think there's there's definitely a place for remakes, and especially where we're at now. I mean, we have so many years of great games. And a lot of them, like including myself, I haven't got the chance to play. One example is Final Fantasy VII. That's one
Right.
it's kind of, touted as like the one of the greatest games of all time. So the fact that I've never gotten around to play it, it's a little disheartening. I feel like I'm not there's some just true, like top tier games that you feel like you have to play as a gamer. And so I feel like I'm really
Right.
missing out by not playing that. But it's also harder to experience it when it's so old. Like I did buy their remake on PS4, where it's just they like polished up the graphics, but it's still the same game.
Right.
It's still hard, man. Like, it's a crawl. Like,
Yeah.
you just have to understand the games are just different than what they used to be, and it's just harder. It's hard to go back. And we even had that discussion when we were talking about the release of Pokemon Gold and Silver on eShop.
Yeah.
So for me, I will pick Heart Gold and Soul Silver over these eShop games any day, just because it's more accessible. It's more in line with what we're used to with Pokemon games now, and it's hard to take a step backwards. It's hard, and not graphically either. I love Game Boy graphics. I love just pixel art in general. So it's definitely not that's holding me back from that. It's the mechanics.
But it does to an extent. Like, and I'm just gonna say this because I think a lot of people, we don't want to say, it's not the graphics. The graphics have nothing to do with it. But there are definitely times, there are definitely games where you're just like, yeah, okay, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Gold and Silver, with them making a remake. I mean, to me at least, I still love the originals and whatnot. And there was something about Heart Gold and Soul Silver that I don't know what it was, and I can't honestly even think about it, but there was something that while I was playing those, I was still just constantly thinking of the original. But even that being said, if you had to pick the two, and they were the exact same, 100% the exact same, nothing was different, no mechanics were different, why wouldn't you pick Heart Gold versus...
No, I get it. And I guess that's kind of that's what I was getting at with the before I got into the Pokemon thing. There's some games that you feel like you just have to play in your gaming career. So I just wanted to finish that up before I jumped back over to Pokemon. So I think that some remakes are good, because since that game is so old, I think it's good that they're remaking it and they're doing it in a different way. Like, apparently it's going to be episodic for some reason. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's going to be different. So,
Right.
and it's going to be a good way for me to experience it for the first time. And I'm sure I'll get crap for it because, oh, you need to play the original or else you can't experience it the same way. And I'm sure that's true. I'm sure there's a lot I'm going to miss out on by not playing the first one. And who knows, maybe I'll get around to, maybe if things slow down, because we all know that customer service in retail is so slow over the holidays.
Right.
Maybe I'll get time to play through it. But in the
Right.
meantime, I'll wait for this remake and actually experience the game just for the story. I mean, I'm a story gamer myself. I don't really play for the. It sounds weird to say I don't really play for the fun of it, like for the fun of the mechanics, but I play for these really well written stories. So I'm excited to see that. So now that we've touched on that, going back to the Pokemon thing, I don't think they really needed to re-release Gold and Silver. I don't think it's a bad thing that they did. I think there's a place for it to some fans. I'm sure some fans will like to go back and revisit it. Like you said, there's that feeling you get to where you think of the originals. So I'm sure it's just a nostalgia grab. I mean, let's
Oh
call
yeah.
it what it is. It's nothing that's going to bring in tons of money, but it's nothing that's really necessary.
Yeah, no, I would agree because they released Yellow, Blue, and Red as well on the
Yeah,
3D shop, right? And I bought it, and Fire Red, it's a tough call between Fire Red and Heart Gold or Gold and whatever as to which one's my favorite game.
really.
Yeah, I really liked Fire Red. I thought Fire Red did everything that the original did, but just upped everything and just made it better. But with that all being said, I bought Red on my 3DS and I played it like 2 times. And then
Right.
I didn't play them very long. I played them for like 20 minutes, like, oh, okay, and done. And it's just like you get on there for that nostalgic moment real quick, and once you get your fill of that, you're just done. I haven't bought Gold or Silver yet, believe it or not. I know I wanted to. I know I said I was going to, but
Yeah.
I just every time I go to buy it, I'm just like, okay, how much am I actually going to play this?
Yep.
You know?
And especially when you're kind of working against yourself too. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna release Gold and Silver now. Oh, but there's also a new Pokemon game coming out
Right.
in a couple months. So, and
Right.
it's cool because like you mentioned, this was your counterpoint last time. Is that you can trade in your Pokemon in the eShop games to the Pokebank and trade them
Correct.
around. So it's not like they're just giving you no new features whatsoever.
Right.
But to me, they're not necessary. I think they have a certain group of fans that'll appreciate them, but I don't know. I think, and maybe it's something super easy for them too. Like for the development side, it could just be like a simple like flip of the switch and it's like, oh, yep, now it's ready for eShop.
Can you imagine how small that file size has to be?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
think about that. Like, that has to be tiny. That has to be nothing.
Like our
I
audio
can't-
files that we're recording right now are probably bigger.
Right. Like, that has to be such a tiny file. And, I was always one of those Pokemon players that, and I know not everybody's like this, but I don't like to I hate the thought of forever losing my Pokemon. So having the Pokebank was like a lifesaver to me, knowing
yeah.
that they'll always be there. And even I'll probably never use them. Some people got really mad at me when I said that I like to use Pokemon. Well, why don't you just make when you get a new game, why don't you just use the Pokemon on that game? I'm like, I do. But when I'm done with that game, I want to keep them forever, and that's what the Pokebank does. Like,
Right.
I can't. It's literally disheartening to me to give away a Pokemon game because I know all my Pokemon are like gone forever, or going
Yep.
to some kid who's going to just erase them. So being able to like play Silver and Gold again, and knowing that okay, they're not just going to be in some digital world that I can't ever get. I can literally move them to that bank. It's a
No,
reassuring feeling.
Tim, you're
to
thinking
me.
of Digimon.
Is that? Oh.
That's the digital world one. You're getting your monsters, your pocket monsters
dude.
mixed up, man.
Talk about a game I'd love to see HD remake.
Digimon?
Dude, I think it was Digimon World 3 or 4. It was terrible. Don't get me wrong. This game was bad. Like, I remember, like, everybody said how bad it was, but you were like, the way it worked was, it was on, like, the PlayStation. I remember renting this game constantly. You were, like, in this, like, little vehicle. Like, it was
Yeah.
a little vehicle in these tunnels, and you had to move, and you had so many spaces and whatnot, and, like, while you're down there, you'd encounter random, Digimon in this digital world. And I remember seeing, what was it? Is it Greymon? Greymon had like the brown helmet. I know it was
Yeah.
orange. So you'd see Greymon down there, and he was such a hard opponent. But if you could catch him and because any Digimon you saw down there, you could capture.
Sure.
Huh? Wink, wink. And I just, again, I'm getting all nostalgia, and it would be a terrible remake. It would be one of those remakes that would satisfy me and only me, probably.
Right.
but because it was terrible, like it was really, everyone said how bad it was, and I'm just sitting there like enjoying the crap out of it, spending all my money renting it constantly when I could have bought it by now. Like it was one of
Yeah.
those things. But damn, that's neither here nor there at this point.
So
Yeah.
as far as like good remakes go, because
hmm
I think that I don't know. I honestly don't know how to classify what makes a good remake and what makes a bad one. I I guess for me, one point could be how old the game is, how old the original game is.
Okay.
Because at that point, when you're remaking it, there's probably new generations of gamers that haven't experienced it before.
Right.
So I think the age of the game probably has a lot to do with it. So Dragon's Dogma, with it only being 3 or 4 years old, probably not
Right.
not necessary, and that I would probably consider, at least in my opinion, maybe lazy on the developer's part, instead of making a new game. And I don't know what goes behind making games. I'm not a professional, so I can't
Right.
speak to it. But from the outside looking in, when you're putting in the time and money to work on a remake instead of making a new game, that comes off as lazy, and I feel like it might come off that way to the fans as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
So a good one, in my opinion, that's coming. I don't know when it's coming out, but it was announced recently. Was the Shadow of Colossus remake, the remake of
Okay.
the remake?
I was say because they made a remake though, didn't they? It was on PlayStation 3.
They did, but this one, I mean, they're making it like from the ground up, from what I understand, and it's supposed to be for like the PS4 Pro, so it's going to be
So
4K.
so was the other one just like a reskin versus a remake? Like was it like a like because an HD reskin, like a high texture pack? Here you go.
I mean that's a whole topic on this podcast in general. Like what the difference between these retextures, to where it's not really, it's the same game, but they're just kind of smoothing things over,
Right.
as opposed to some games that actually build the game from the ground up, which I believe like Crash Bandicoot did.
Oh, for
and,
sure. They did.
And Ratchet and Clank as well. I believe both of those games, the game's the same, but they reworked it. Like they
Like
pretty much just like started from scratch.
Crash was so remade that the shape that he used to be, like because it wasn't the boxy shape, it was more of like an oval shape. Like it made the game way harder because of it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. I guess we didn't really clarify which is which, but I guess to me it really is just remaking the game with better graphics, whether it's
Okay.
just a reskin or it's from the ground up. I think obviously most people would prefer from the ground up. I mean, the result is obviously better.
Right.
So I think that's what has me excited for Shadow of Colossus. For one, I never got to play it, and I bought the remake and never got to play that. So, all right, third time's a charm. Now's my chance, and I feel like I'm going to be playing it in like the best way possible, like on the PS4 Pro and 4K.
Do you have a
It'll-
Pro?
Not yet, but wait till Black Friday.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm hoping, man. I never wait until Black Friday to buy consoles, so this will be like my first one. So I'm hoping they actually have some good deals on it, because not to get too off topic, but I think they have to do something to compete with the Scorpio, and I think a price drop is going to be what it is.
That would be a good thing to do.
I mean, what else can you do? You can't release another console. You're going to
You
piss
can't.
everyone
That
off.
would. Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. I know they have a new headset coming out. They pretty much announced the PlayStation headset
Yeah.
version 2, but that's a whole thing.
Right. But in circling back to the remakes, because I feel like I've kind of pointed out all these examples. I'll let you take over to see what you have to say.
So I think the Shadow of Colossus is a good example. Actually, I mean, I think the fact that they did a remake and they're doing another remake kind of threw me off. And I'm just like, okay, didn't they already do that? Kind
Sure.
of thing. Granted, it wasn't on the PlayStation 4, but again, it was on one of those consoles. Now, so this next game, one of my favorite games of all time, but my God, have they freaking just done enough of this? Resident Evil 4 has seen more remakes than I can even count, probably.
Right.
Like, there was the GameCube, which will forever be the best one, right? Because it's the original. It's the original. It's always
And
gonna
it's
be the best
GameCube.
one. And it's GameCube, which was the whole thing in itself. The system was amazing. Then they did a Wii and a PlayStation 2 port a little bit after that. Then they did a 360, a PS3 port, an iPad port, a PC port, an Xbox One port, a PS4 port. Like that's a lot for a game that came out on GameCube.
Oh
And
yeah.
and the thing that kills me about that game and that remake is it's the HD remake and it looks the same on all the systems.
Yeah.
Like it's really not like I played it on my Xbox One and it looks just as the same as it did on my GameCube. Now maybe because it's it might look better on a bigger screen now versus what it would have if I would have put my GameCube into my TV now.
Sure.
I'm sure, but as far as just standard quality goes though, it still looks the same.
Oh yeah. And,
Um
and that
yeah.
kind of circles back to like if they're going to port it all these times, like what's to stop them from, actually working from the ground up to remake it? And I don't,
That's yeah.
and if they've ported it so many times, it probably is super easy. Like it probably is just like a few simple switches, and they're just
Oh
like
yeah.
controller configurations.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying that's how easy it is, but if they port it so many times, it can't be difficult.
We're getting some developer on this. You're wrong. You
Right.
have no idea how difficult
You don't
this
appreciate
is.
what we do for you. We're never giving you free stuff.
Resident Evil 4 ports are done thanks to you.
Right. Resident Evil's canceled. No more Redfield DLC.
Oh no, I would
You get
cry.
Jill Sandwich DLC.
But and now granted, they've got my money every time. Like I don't know how much money I spent on
How
Resident
many
Evil 4, but
how
it's
many
a lot
Resident Evil copies do you have, Tim?
of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I do have the GameCube, of course, and I'll always keep that with my little white memory card.
Yep.
That has its own sacred holster somewhere. I have the Wii version. I bought the Wii version because that did motion controls, which I thought was neat, right? You get the little Wii zapper. Pew, pew. I bought the PlayStation 2 version with the chainsaw controller. I had the 360 version. I had the iPad version. I got the PC version. I had the Xbox One version.
Oh my gosh.
And I've thoroughly played the game on every system. But I mean, granted, that's because I'm a freak about that game. I absolutely
Sure.
love that game. But it's still, even I say it's too much. Like 100% agree it's too much. Give me time to really be like, man, I really wish they'd remake this game. Let me have that feeling because when it came out on 360, I was pumped. I'm not gonna lie, I was super pumped about it.
Yeah.
But like, it came out to Xbox One, and I was just like, okay, whatever. I didn't really. I bought it because it was Resident Evil 4, and I played it because it was Resident Evil 4, but I didn't have
Right.
that nostalgia feeling, while I was playing it. At that point, I just wanted to make sure I still knew the ins and outs of what I knew. But that's that game. That's how I feel about that. Now, keeping on with Resident Evil, they did announce Resident Evil 2 is having like basically, from my understanding, the Shadow of the Colossus treatment.
So where it's from the ground up.
Right, you talk about a game that hasn't been ported enough ever anywhere is that game. My
Right.
gosh. Resident Evil 1 has been ported a decent amount more times than that game. Resident Evil 0 has been ported more than that game. Code Veronica has been ported more than that game. Like, Resident Evil 2 has seen the least amount of ports. I'm trying to think of the actual last place you could buy it, and I'm pretty sure it was on PlayStation 2. I know you could buy it on PC, or PlayStation 1, I'm sorry. I know you could buy it on PC, and I know they did a 64 port of it, but they all came out close to the same time. It wasn't like
Yeah.
it was more just a release on each system. And that's it. I cannot think of another time you could get Resident Evil 2. Even Resident Evil 1 had a freaking DS remake. It was terrible, but they did it.
Now
That
for the
game,
the Resident Evil 1 remake, what did they do there? Because I know I have that on PS4. Is that one from the ground up, or is that more like a reskin?
So okay, so the PS4 version is okay. So the GameCube version I feel like was a full remake when they did it because
Okay.
you had Resident Evil 1. If you look at the graphics for that and the graphics are, I'm pretty sure that was just a complete remake from the ground up. But ever since the GameCube version, I'm pretty sure it's just been more high-res textures.
Okay.
I like because they look about the same as what it did on GameCube. And the GameCube version also included the Crimson Heads, which were also included in Resident Evil, all the newer versions of it. So I feel like the GameCube version was an HD, like a full HD blown remake from the ground up, and then everything else after that was just a high-res skin.
Okay.
But Resident Evil 2 is supposed to get that treatment, and we haven't heard a word from it since the little dude on the TV is like I think I can't remember if he like opened his shirt up or he just showed it on a TV or did both. I don't know. But he's just like, we have big announcement, and it was like a 2-minute clip of him just being, we are working on a fully loaded Resident Evil 2 remake, and I lost it. I freaking lost it. I was
know
so
that's
stoked.
it's been at least 4 years.
Since that announcement.
At least, because I remember we talked about that when I worked at the GameStop in Pickle with
Probably.
you.
Like,
So it's probably longer than that.
Dude, yeah, you're probably not. I'm just like it's just a big announcement. Everybody wants Resident Evil 2. In my opinion, it's the best in the series. You know, it did everything that the first game did, but better. It had so much story to it. You know, it was Raccoon City.
Yeah,
it was Raccoon City. It's huge. And okay, I gotta stop thinking about it because now I'm getting really. I'm trying to figure out how Zach got to play it, and he never answered me, and it frustrated me. But yeah, no, I'm so stoked for that remake. To kind of hit on what you were saying though about Final Fantasy, I never played it either, believe it or not. Like, and I never played a whole lot of any of the Final Fantasies. I know I said that about on one of our podcasts about, you know, I played the Crisis Core on the PSP before and I didn't like it and I got yelled at by Trey about it. And he abused me verbally about it, but I played Final Fantasy 13, I believe, and I didn't care. When I think of a Final Fantasy game from the previous years, when I think, again, never really played them, but when I sit down and watch people play them and all that, and I think turn-based. That was always my thought of, and it is, if Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I don't remember, I think 7's turn-based, right? I believe it's turn-based. Could be wrong, again, don't know. But I like that kind of combat system when I think Final Fantasy, and like even Final Fantasy 15 was good. I played a little bit of it, I enjoyed what I played of it, but I don't know. When I think Final Fantasy, I always thought turn-based system.
Yeah.
And I'll be super stoked if this remake of Final Fantasy is like that, but it's kind of, this whole 2-part thing really does throw me off. I'm not going to lie. I am not a fan of that. I'll just say it. Not a fan that they're doing a 2-part thing.
Well, it's not even, I don't think it's even 2-part. I thought it was like episodic completely to where it could be like split up into 5 parts.
That maybe you're right. Maybe that's how, I do not like that. Here's the reason why. If it was a game that was new, nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew what to whatever, expecting blah 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 words and things. I think it would be more understandable. It's a new Final Fantasy game. You know, it'll be new, fresh, episodic. You won't know what's coming next. But you have a game that most people, most gamers who are going to be interested, have already played it, should know what's coming, and you're going to take a game that is supposed to be big and I guess somewhat open world. How do you do an open world game episodically? Like, how does that work?
I don't know, man. I guess you block off areas,
which is terrible.
Yeah, because then it's not really open as much.
Right. Like, you should never have to pay. First of all, if the game's going to wind up being more than $60, I think that's ludicrous.
I don't think it will. I really don't.
Do you think it'd be like $15 episodes? Like, do you think that's what they'll do? Is $15?
Well, I think they're gonna. I think they'll sell it as. I don't think they'll let you buy episodes individually. I think it'll be, here's the game, like for $60 or whatever, and you get to play each individual part. So basically, I think you'll be forced to buy like a season pass.
Oh, so like I buy in advance and we'll unlock it when we're ready.
Right, and that's. I don't know. For a game like that, I feel like that's the best way to go about it. Because then if you have people buying episodes, then I don't know. At least from like a marketing perspective. Because then you have people that are... You might have more potential buyers that pay like the 10 or 15 to buy the game, the first episode of the game to play it. But then how many people are you going to lose that maybe don't like it or don't like that it's episodic?
Right, but like, okay. But what if it's on... Like, are they going to release a disc copy? Because if that's true, then you run into the whole issue of, okay, I spent $60 on this disc, and I can't play everything on this disc right now. You know what I mean?
I don't think I think if it's episodic, I don't think they would do a disc release.
And what about all the people who want to play it offline? Because it's an offline game. Ooh.
I don't know.
Got him.
I don't know. I mean, we're in 2017. You really expect to be gaming without... We had
that's
this
a
debate.
Whole thing. Yep,
yeah, we had this
that's
debate back in
whole thing
2013,
I would
man.
be more than happy to talk to, but yeah.
Right. Just doesn't make sense, man. Like...
Yeah. I don't know. I think that game doing it. I think that kind of HD remake that it does bother me. I know it doesn't bother many other people, and there's people just like, no, it'll be okay, and it might be okay. It very well might be okay, and it might buy it, be happy about it. Everything's great, grand, wonderful. But I don't like the fact that it's episodic like that. I don't like the fact that a game that most people who know it, play it, enjoy it, are. I don't know. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say, but like I don't
get
like
it.
that.
But I think until we get more information, like we have nothing to go off of at this point.
Right.
And so until we get more information as far as how it's going to work, I don't know. I'll bite my tongue and we'll see what happens. I think it's very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's ever done like a full game that's episodic before. Like Telltale games, they make sense that they're episodic. Like I don't know, because that's like pure story. So it's just like watching a TV show almost. It's kind of like the same format.
Right. Revelations 2 actually did it. Resident Evil Revelations 2
Really?
was episodic. Yep.
Interesting.
Came out in it was either 3 or 4 parts. I can't remember, but it was an episodic game. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. I remember buying the season pass for that, and waiting for the follow because I think it released like once a week. Each episode released once a week, and it worked. But I feel like it worked because. And Revelations 2 was okay. I'm not going to say it was great by any means.
Sure.
It was okay. But it worked because, I wanted to see what happened next. I didn't know what happened next. I wanted to see what happened next. So I'd get on like every Tuesday and jump on my little game and continue onward. But again, I don't know. It worked for that game. It was fun. They had Mercenaries mode. That was fun. But I guess we'll just have to, like you said, bite our tongue and see what happens and see as we get more information, which is kind of surprising we haven't gotten more information. Like this has been in talks and in the works for a long time now, hasn't it?
What, Final Fantasy?
Yes.
No, for sure. I couldn't tell you how long, but it's been at least since the E3 that they showed off Cuphead and Battlefront, the first Battlefront.
Okay.
The first
Wow.
the first current gen Battlefront. So I think that was 2013.
Wow. Okay, so we're 4 years and we really don't know much about it still.
Yeah, nothing.
That's
But
okay.
I feel like that's very typical of Square.
Yeah, right.
Like Square
Kingdom Hearts.
specifically. Like, yeah, Kingdom Hearts. And then
God.
also that, I feel like I'm getting off topic again. But that Avengers game that they're doing.
They're doing an Avengers game?
Oh, you haven't seen that?
No.
They're doing an Avengers game. And there's just a teaser trailer for it. But damn, it looks sweet.
Well, then.
Yeah. Add that to your post-podcast to watch list because that looks sweet.
Off subject, kind of on subject, but off subject. I rewatched Age of Ultron, and I thought it was okay the first time I watched it. Wasn't really like meh to it. I really enjoyed it the second time. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed it the second time.
Really, a lot of people say that's kind of one of the weak links of the MCU.
And I could believe that. Like, don't get me wrong, I could 100% believe that. But yeah, I don't know. I rewatched it and I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. I really liked it. I thought the humor in it was good, stuff like that. I know we're getting off subject. We'll get back on there, but we talked about it, brought it in my mind, so I wanted to throw it out there. I thought it was solid. Again.
And I honestly, I don't think I watched it after I saw it in the theaters.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when everyone's trying to pick up Thor's hammer, it's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
I mean it always has the the humor in there, but now looking at I've got my desktop in front of me here, and I'm looking at the Blizzard launcher.
Okay.
One remake that I would probably love over anything else is a Warcraft 3 remake.
Ooh.
And that's one that I think it's not only plausible, but I think makes sense.
Okay.
So with the StarCraft, they re-released original StarCraft in 4K,
Right.
which I think is cool because for one, I mean the RTS, StarCraft specifically. I mean it's kind of like the one of the I'd say top 3 RTSs. Would
Right.
you agree?
I'd agree. I think that your big
Okay.
ones are StarCraft, Age of Empires, and
Civ.
Civ. Oh, for sure, Civ.
So I'd say it makes sense to re-release it for nostalgia purposes, but also with it being the oldest of the games, it makes sense to build it from the floor up and kind of
Right.
rebuild some of those assets. Because I don't know, for me, Warcraft 3 was my first experience with Blizzard games at all. I'd always like seen the games in the like the Sunday paper ads and stuff. It'd be like, oh, that looks crazy, and it's like, oh, that game's got the devil on it. I probably shouldn't play that. So I don't know. I was always interested, but I until my friend Mike played it, I never got into it. So he got me into it, and I was hooked. Like the story, the gameplay, the characters, everything was so great. I mean, that's why I've been playing WoW for 13 years at this point. So I think that would be a really good remake to have, and I think it's a good one to do it on because that game came out in 2000 maybe. 2000, anywhere between 99 and 2001. I'll give it a 3-year range. I couldn't say for sure.
So okay. So Blizzard, if you're listening, you can make a man's dream come true. Just
Well,
wink, wink.
I think, I mean, there's been all these rumors because they post like their job openings. So anytime they see something, they'll try and like tie it into, well, what's it going to be? Like they said, Blizzard's working on a mobile MOBA game.
Ooh, no, are they really?
That's what people are saying. That was like in a job posting or something. But same thing with Warcraft 3. People have said that they found hints that there's going to be a Warcraft, either a 1 and 2 remake or a 3, which I never played 1 or 2, which I understand that people probably gripe because that's apparently like you have to play it. But I don't know. Warcraft 3 is where I started, so that's where my heart is.
I've downloaded some generic freaking mobile MOBA games, and they're terrible. So I'd really like Blizzard to make a good one.
If anyone could, it'd be them.
I agree. I don't play all the Blizzard games. You play WoW. I've tried to play WoW. It's good. I'm not gonna bash WoW. It's clearly one of the best MMOs, if not the single best MMO ever created. And I like Overwatch. I think it's a great game. I suck at it. There. Yeah. I wish I was better at it. Yeah, I wish I was better at it. I'm better at it when I have friends to play with, but I cannot play a game alone. I get thrashed. Yeah, Hearthstone's great. I mean, there's not a game that Blizzard makes that's bad. There's not one that I can think of that was bad.
They're brilliant, man.
Their worst game was Diablo 3, and it was still great.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
Diablo's still fantastic.
Right.
It's definitely my least... Well, I don't know. Between that and StarCraft, those are my two least played.
Yeah.
And StarCraft's not bad. It's just another one of like, I'm just not good at it.
Yeah, StarCraft's so much fun. I know we talked about this on another podcast at one point, but if I was to pick a game, and I'm just kind of trying to look into my head of what I played and what old school games like I would love to see remade, I think if I honestly had to choose one, it would be, at least right now that I can think of, Dino Crisis. I absolutely love that series.
I think we did talk about that in the last Nintendo 64 Classic.
It was a game that or Silent Hill, like an actual good from the ground up remake of Silent Hill.
And see, that'd be one I'd be interested in because I never played them.
And they're so good. Silent Hill was way scarier than Resident Evil. Resident Evil was great, and I loved it, and it will always be my favorite game. But Silent Hill was definitely scarier.
It was more psychological, right?
It was. Yeah, it was way more like Resident Evil is scary because you walk into a room, you hear things, don't know what it is, stuff jumps at you, it's scary, boo, boo, boo. But yeah, Silent Hill was way more just psychological, like what the F is happening right now? What is going on? This is freaky. But Dino Crisis, man. The amount of because it was Resident Evil with dinosaurs. Yeah. That's what it was. And it was done. So, I mean, we don't have very many good dinosaur games other than like Ark. And Ark isn't like a single player game.
Sure.
Sure you can make it single player, but there's no there's no story, there's no nothing. It's just go do you boo boo, kind of thing. Dino Crisis was just fun. It had that gunplay, that the lock cameras that Resident Evil had, the gunplay that Resident Evil had, but with the terrifying thought of, okay, instead of a slow zombie running after me, it's a fast raptor that's going to eat my face,
right?
Or a giant T-Rex. Like, it was so good. It was so much fun. The key card, that would be the game I'd love to see remade sometime.
Maybe we'll play through that sometime.
It would be awesome. I would absolutely love to replay through Dino Crisis. I remember buying it on the PSP Go because I bought, okay, look, I bought, I kid you not, a PS3 and a PSP Go for the simple fact that I could replay Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on it. That's where I could play Resident Evil 3 2. That's right. It did come to PlayStation PlayStation 3 network because it was on there. I forgot about that. Yeah, but it wasn't a remake though. It was literally just the PS1 version.
Like here,
of
play it.
You're right. It wasn't an actual remake, so that
Right.
doesn't count. But I remember sitting down and playing Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on my PSP Go. Played Dino Crisis on my Oh man, good old freaking.
I've got a unique one here to where it's not really it wasn't a completely different game, but it was still reminiscent to where like they rebuilt from one of the first games in the series in the current game.
Okay.
So let me be a little more specific because that's vague as fucking no one's gonna understand. So Metal Gear Solid, number one, probably one of my favorite games. I mean, definitely my favorite game series franchise of all time.
Right.
But playing through because you tried to play one, right?
I beat one. I did.
You beat one. Okay.
And it was fun.
Yeah, it's a good game in it. But you never you didn't really dabble in any of the others, right?
Right. I did. So I dabbled a little bit in 4 when it came out to PS3.
Okay.
And then I did a little bit of 5 as well. The whatever.
Man. So good.
But I think I didn't enjoy 5 because I didn't really get the nostalgia feeling that a lot of people probably really like. I didn't understand Metal Gear a ton. You know, I get kind of what's going on.
It's a convoluted story, so I completely understand.
I think I've had you tell me that story like 7 times before I started playing. I had so many questions.
And I will tell you a million more times.
Right. Like, and the first one was great. Absolutely did enjoy the first one. But I never played the second one or so on. I tried the fourth one and it was neat. I got to the big cutscene that happened. That's about as far as I got. And then I didn't understand that cutscene because, again, I didn't know the story.
Sure.
And then I played 5 and that's where I got.
So my call it is going to be to 4. Okay. So 4 is obviously the last one in the I shouldn't say obviously. 4 is the last one in the series because Solid Snake is really old. So it's going to be the furthest one that's set out. But one thing that they did really well is you actually go back to Shadow Moses, which is where Metal Gear Solid 1 takes place. Mm-hmm. And as you're going through, you're going through the level, and it's set up the exact same way. Like, everything is exactly the way that you left it in the very first game. And they even have, if I remember right, they even have you'll go to a specific area and it'll pop up with a flashback. It'll have a flashback of original graphics and everything, just a quick screen shot. And even some of the sound effects. Some of the sound effects as you're walking around, you can kind of hear them in the distance. I don't know. I know for sure that the screen pops up. The sounds I might be making up in my head because I was so I was just so into it. But
you heard them though.
I don't think I stopped smiling the whole mission. It was just so cool to. I don't know. You're finalizing this storyline, and you're getting really I don't know, emotional about going back to kind of where it started for me. I know it started before Metal Gear Solid, but that's where it started in my career. And another part that they did well is the final fight. So when you're fighting Liquid Ocelot, it kind of takes you through each game. So it'll start off with the old looking health meter, and then he'll kind of act like he did in the first one, and then it goes to 2, 3, and then 4, and the meter changes the whole time. And I know that that's not an HD remake. I was more talking about the level Shadow Moses,
right?
To where it's, I don't know. It was just a really cool way to not have to remake the game, but still have it in there for the fans. Now, granted, Don't get me wrong. I would absolutely love a Metal Gear Solid HD remake, but we all know how shitty Konami is, and we know that that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it's not Kojima, I don't think I'd want it to happen at this point.
No, I don't blame
Metal
you.
Gear is dead for me, just because I know
Which is
he won't.
Sad.
It's extremely sad. Just it's dead for the fact that he's not going to have his hands on it, and it's his. It's his
your series.
Yeah. He is working with the guy that's making the movie though.
That's cool.
So at least I know that that'll be in good hands. But as far as games go, fucking Metal Gear Solid or Metal Gear Survive, whatever it is, trash.
Is that the zombie one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Zombie.
But yeah, that was just kind of a cool little call out that I thought of that You can still like remake maybe a portion of like an old game, but put it in a new one.
See,
And I think a lot of games could do that.
oh yeah, that's genius because again, when you and see that's one of those parts that I would not understand. I wouldn't get.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
maybe I
you
would,
play through
but
the
I
level,
wouldn't. Yeah,
but you wouldn't. You understand like the like having to crawl through like this specific event to get to this scene, and
right. And that's neat. That's something that I mean. That just it's a call out to your veteran fans. That's really what it is. That's
absolutely
exactly what it is, and that's really cool to have games do that. And like when Metal Gear was a thing, I got more into Splinter Cell. So I'm a big Splinter Cell fan, and I know like Metal Gear, Splinter Cell, they're stealth-based games. They're both the same kind of concept, right?
How dare you?
I will. Well,
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I love Splinter Cell. I absolutely love Splinter Cell, and I think it's one of the best stealth games I've ever played. It's definitely my stealth game of choice, hands down. But I have to just state, just from fans and just seeing the difference, Metal Gear clearly has a way different story, like a way bigger story. Like there's way more going in the Metal Gear world. Like,
for sure.
Like the last Splinter Cell game was neat and it was cool, but I just felt like they were just rehashing. Like they were just kind of making up a reason to have another Splinter Cell game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it sounds bad, and I like what was it, Black something?
Yep.
Black
Blacklist.
something. Blacklist. Yeah, Splinter Cell Blacklist was great. Lots of fun, tons of fun, great story. Absolutely loved it. But you could definitely tell that they were just making the story to make the story.
Yeah.
As to where I feel like with the Metal Gear games, just from what I see and what I read and people's reactions of it, there's just a lot of deepness to those games. Like this, they have just so much heart and soul, even till now.
Oh yeah. It's
So,
it's always going to be the, I mean, it's the most emotional game I've ever played. It's the best written game I've ever played. Like I'm a pretty emotional person in general, but man, I like that game had me in tears.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't know, it tore me up. Four did specifically, I think, because a lot of people thought that that's when it was coming to a close. But then when 5 came out, oh man, like playing through some of that got pretty emotional too. But that was for, I don't know, different reasons. I still have my gripes with 5, but
Yeah. Not your favorite.
no, I mean definitely not my favorite. For one, well, no, not getting too far off track. No, I'll save that for a Metal Gear podcast. We'll do like a Metal Gear in May or Metal Gear in March, and we'll play.
It'll be
through all the
literally
games
just
together.
Trevor talking about Metal Gear.
No, we'll all play them. Everyone deserves to play through all the Metal Gear games.
Trevor's going to force us to play Metal Gear.
Right,
games.
I'm going to be
I
like,
won't-
Tim, call off the next week of work. We're playing Metal Gear
I
nonstop.
don't have a choice.
Yeah, no
Just
choice.
Kidnap me.
We'll just take a Metal Gear vacation.
That'd be kind of a cool vacation. That'd be
kinda.
neat. Just like, because I feel like Metal Gear is one of those games that, like, because of how the story is, you could sit there and just watch it and still enjoy it. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. 4 specifically kind of got a lot of crap for its cutscenes, but like once you beat the game, you have to sit through, I believe it's like an hour and a half of cutscenes.
But that has to be awesome. That has to be awesome. That has to be awesome.
It is so worth it though. Like it's very rewarding.
Like, I believe that. I have no problem with game having cutscenes like that.
Yeah.
Freaking The Last of Us is still one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm not even a PlayStation fan, but that game, the story in that game alone, I don't think I've ever played a game where in one story had me as emotional as that. Had me going through, but that's, again, a whole nother thing, but my gosh, that game.
Well, it's kind of related because, I do want to kind of wrap this up and talk about our final thoughts, but Last of Us got a remake.
It did.
A very recent remake. It launched on PS3, but then got remastered on PS4.
Yep.
And that's how I played it. I played it on PS4. So I'm not going to say that it wasn't worth it because for me it was.
Did you beat it? Did you get all the way through?
Yeah.
Dude, that game, man. Like
it was actually
gosh.
really. It was an interesting time because I had just gotten like really badly sunburnt. Like I had to go to the ER. Okay. Like it was really bad. So I'm just like sitting in this chair covered in aloe and I'm watching Trey play. Like we had planned on like playing it together, like passing controller back and forth, but I was like, I can't move. But it was just like super fun it was a fun game to watch.
Oh yeah, that's a game I could happily sit down and watch. Just, man, that game, dude. Like,
very well done.
That part in that game where they have oh my god, I forgot her name.
Ellie.
Ellie. Yeah, they have Ellie, and you just you like me as the person playing. I'm as pissed off as he is, and and like you go through and you just freaking I don't know how everybody else played, but man, when you got to that part and they took her because it was when what's his face was going to do bad things to her.
Yeah.
Right, and like you get out of that chair and. I know you can play it stealthy and try to be, but man, I freaking went guns ablaze. I was so pissed. Like, no, I freaking messed. Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills.
I love that
just
games
thinking of
can.
that.
I love that games can evoke those emotions in you, man. Like that is.
That game.
So
Yeah.
bringing it back. Final thoughts on HD remakes, because I know we've kind of been a little bit all over the place here, but I think we've touched on some good points on both sides. So I'll let you go first, Tim. What are some of your final thoughts on HD remakes? And just to kind of give you some points here, at least from what I'm thinking of. What do you think as far as, are they lazy? Are they necessary? Where do they fit in? And are there too many of them?
I will say I do think there are too many of them. There are some that just not needed, for sure. I think if the game developer, like Capcom for Dragon's Dogma, if you're going to put out a remake of a game that, like you said, isn't too old, 4 years, it really doesn't build up a whole lot of like nostalgia time. But if you're going to put out a game like that, it should be evident that you are making another game. Either that or just state, no, we're never making another game, but we'll let you play this again, right? One or the other. I believe most HD remakes need to be an HD remake and not just say HD remake. Cause
remaster,
again,
I think is the other term. And I think a lot of people get confused there. Because I think it's probably a marketing thing at that point. So let's just say remaster is a reskin and then remake is from the ground up.
Okay. Because so there's a lot of games that are remastered, right? An HD remastered.
Oh, for sure.
And I think those games need to slow down. I think what needs to come of this whole thing is if you're going to do an HD remastered, make it an HD remake. That's kind of my thought on it. Like if you just want to make a quick buck and throw something out there and you don't want to take the time to really dive into the game and make it better than what it was and just throw a new skin on it and call it a day, I feel like that's laziness for sure. I get that there's sometimes things where that's like, again, if you're making a sequel to it, that becomes a little bit of a different thing. But I think overall, most HD remasters should be remakes.
Sure.
At least that's my 2 cents on it.
No, I agree with you there. I think if you're, like, regardless of how much effort it takes to remaster something or port it over to a different console, you're still putting like time and money into this that could be spent elsewhere. It could be spent on a remake. If it's really that important for you to get this game back in the hands of the gamers.
Right.
So I think it can go either way. I think sometimes it is lazy, and I'm not saying that to talk trash to game developers or anything. I'm sure sometimes you don't really have a choice. This is what you're told to work on. So this is the way that it is.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't want us, and you can say the same thing about the movie industry too. Like, how many reboots do we have to go through until an original idea comes up?
Right.
So I think I would like to see, I don't want the HD remakes to stop, because I think there are plenty of great games out there that should be retold for generations to come, or generations that missed it. I missed out on so many games growing up that my friends got to play, mostly because I grew up in I just had Nintendo consoles. That's all I had, and I wasn't able to play mature rated games. So there's tons of stuff I missed out on.
Right.
So I'm okay with Final Fantasy, Shadow of the Colossus. Keep those coming.
Right.
But,
I agree.
Just be careful with don't flood the market with HD remasters when you can make a remake, or if you are going to do that, reinvest your money into a new IP or something. If you don't have anything worth actually remaking from the ground up, make something new from the ground up.
Right. Don't pull a Capcom and make Resident Evil 4 on make your game on every single system every 2 years.
Right.
I'm sorry. I love it, but man, that was a lot.
I don't know. And I'm okay with the collections too. I think the collections are cool. I think PS3 is when we saw a lot of that start to happen.
We saw a ton on the PS3. My gosh.
And like you saw the Silent Hill collection, we had the Resident Evil anthology, the Kingdom Hearts remakes started on there.
Yep.
And like I said, they're good collections, and a lot of them are stories that need to be told. But I think my final point will be I guess have a reason behind it. So whether it's, hey, this game's been out for 10 years and since we're still making games in the series, let's have an easy way for new gamers to get into the series without having to go back and maybe buy an old console or something.
Right.
So I think that makes sense. So having the Kingdom Hearts remakes makes sense to me. If they didn't kill Silent Hill or Silent Hills, I would say, yeah, do that. Do another anthology there on PS4. That'd be cool.
Right.
I know. So I guess that's my final thought. Just don't be lazy. Invest in the remakes that are worth doing. If it's, whether it's something that a series that's still going, or if it's a series that isn't still going, has it been long enough that it really warrants one?
Right.
So yeah, I think that those are my final thoughts. I don't think they're evil things by any means,
Nope.
but I think there's a time and place for them.
Yep. I agree with you.
Cool. Well, that's all I have to say about HD remakes. What about you, Tim?
That pretty much sums it up. Between what I said and you said is, yeah, that's what I got.
Perfect. Well, I guess that wraps up this week's. We will be back next Monday with another podcast at 1 p.m. You can find it on YouTube, Google Play, and iTunes. We'd love it if you left us some feedback, leave us some reviews, comments. Let us know what you'd like to see us talk about next week. We'd love to hear some ideas from you, and we'd love to talk about those. So get in touch with us on our socials if you have any ideas. We'll try and make those podcast topics happen. So until next week, we will see you guys later.
Later, guys.